A wing snaps the air. A shadow lifts, then vanishes almost immediately. Somewhere, a bird takes off, knowing it might be the last time anyone ever sees that shape move. Across mangrove thickets, salt flats, burning grasslands, isolated islands, fractured forests, empty skies, the kind that feel unfinished. These are places where sound carries too far, and silence settles fast. Tonight, you're not meeting rare birds, you're meeting margins. Species balanced on double digits, sometimes less, where every hatch matters, every mistake echoes. We'll follow birds shaped by extremes, by isolation, by human pressure, by time running out. Because when numbers drop this low, biology changes. Mating becomes a logistical nightmare. Genetics tighten like a noose. A single storm, power line, or fishing net can erase a lineage that took millions of years to write. And yet, they persist, with colors too bold for their situation, behaviors that feel stubborn, almost defiant, as if extinction hasn't officially informed them yet. So here's the question hanging in the air. When a species slips below 100 souls, what actually decides who survives? Nature, chance, or us? A lone bird crosses the frame, wing beats slowing, the sky holding its breath. A small bird hops through tangled roots, mangrove mud sucking at its feet, insects scattering. Blink and you'd miss it. And that's kind of the problem. This is the mangrove finch. Plain, brownish, no dramatic colors, no heroic wingspan. It looks like a background character that wandered into the wrong movie and somehow ended up carrying the entire plot. Life here is relentless. Salt air, mosquitoes, roots like a maze designed by someone angry. Food isn't abundant, it's negotiated. The finch pecks, probes, improvises, sometimes even using sticks to pry out larvae. Tool use from a bird that looks like it should still be figuring out mornings. And then there's dating, which is less romantic encounter and more statistical nightmare. When there are barely any of you left, every choice matters. Every pairing echoes forward. Awkward silence becomes genetic destiny. Predators don't help. Neither do invasive parasites that treat nests like open buffets. One fly larva, one bad season, and an entire generation just stops. No drama, just absence. Here's the cruel irony. The mangrove finch isn't losing because it's weak. It's losing because it's specialized, because it chose one place, one lifestyle, and trusted it would last. Evolution rewards commitment until the world changes the terms. So this bird keeps working, building nests, singing into humid air, hoping someone answers, not aware of population graphs or recovery plans. Just doing bird things, very quietly. And that's the unsettling part. Extinction doesn't feel loud here. It feels like a job interview with too few applicants. And time politely waiting in the corner, somewhere deeper in the mangroves. Another bird moves, and the margin gets thinner. A soft flutter. Low to the ground, barely clearing the grass. Not an escape, more like a quiet apology to gravity. This is the blue-eyed ground dove. Small, earth-toned, polite to a fault. With eyes so vividly blue they feel misplaced, like someone installed sapphires on a creature trying not to be noticed. And that's the problem. This bird lives in open grasslands. Places humans love to flatten, fence, and repurpose. No cliffs, no canopy. Just exposure, all day, every day. It feeds on seeds scattered across soil that may or may not still exist tomorrow. Survival here is a full-time anxiety disorder. Every step risks a predator. Every pause risks discovery. Flight is short, low, inefficient. More, please don't, than watch this. Evolution optimized it for calm landscapes, not bulldozers and fire lines. Dating is worse. Because when your population dips into double digits, you're not choosing. You're hoping. Hoping the bird you hear is real, nearby, compatible, and not the last one in the wrong direction. Romance collapses into logistics. And then comes the irony. Those glowing blue eyes. They aren't for beauty. They're part of visual signaling. Subtle communication in tall grass. A private channel that stops working when there's no one left to see it. This bird isn't dramatic. It doesn't scream. It doesn't fight back. It just keeps doing what it evolved to do. Walking, pecking, lifting briefly into the air. As the floor disappears beneath it. Extinction here doesn't arrive with violence. It arrives with silence. With grass that never quite moves again. Somewhere out there, a pair might still be walking, eyes bright, waiting for a world that already moved on. A blur skims the mud, stops suddenly. Then the bill starts sweeping side to side, like it's vacuuming the shoreline for crumbs. This is the spoon-billed sandpiper. Tiny, nervous, with a face that looks like it lost a bet with a spatula. That spoon-shaped bill, ridiculous at first glance, is actually a precision tool. It feeds by feel, sweeping that widened tip through shallow water, detecting prey by touch, not sight, not sound. Touch, a sensory hack perfected over thousands of years, for one very specific kind of coastline. And there's the trap, because those coastlines are vanishing. Mudflats drained, wetlands paved, stopover sites erased one by one, like deleting airports mid-flight. This bird migrates absurd distances, across countries, across borders, across bad decisions. It needs a chain of safe places. Miss one link, and the whole journey collapses. No refueling, no backup plan. Breeding doesn't help. Low success. Few chicks, predators waiting, weather flipping the table without warning. When your population drops this low, every failed nest feels personal. And here's the cruel joke. That iconic spoonbill? It makes the bird instantly recognizable and instantly vulnerable. Hunters don't need field guides, just a glance. So the sandpiper keeps sweeping. Left, right, left, searching for food in places that remember when there were more of them. Flying routes memorized by instinct, not knowing half the stops are gone. Extinction here isn't sudden. It's cumulative. A missing wetland, a delayed tide, a journey that finally costs more energy than the bird has left. Somewhere on a shrinking shoreline, a spoon traces the mud and waits for the world to meet it. A massive shape rises from the grass. Slow, heavy, unimpressed with gravity, but obeying it anyway. Every wing beat sounds like effort. This is the great Indian bustard, one of the heaviest flying birds on Earth, which is a polite way of saying flight was never the plan. Long legs, barrel chest, built for walking vast grasslands like it owns the place, because for a long time, it did. Daily life here is simple. Walk, forage, scan, seeds, insects, the occasional small reptile, eaten at a pace that suggests confidence. The bustard relies on visibility, not speed. It expects to see danger coming, which worked fine, until danger learned to arrive silently. Power lines are the real enemy. The bustard doesn't look up. Evolution never asked it to. So it flies low, straight into cables it can't see. One impact, and centuries of adaptation end in seconds. No chase, no drama, just gravity finishing the job. Dating is ceremonial. Males inflate themselves, feathers out, posture proud, advertising dominance in open space, a display meant to be seen from far away. But when there are barely any left, the audience doesn't show up. Confidence collapses into confusion. And here's the bitter irony. This bird is protected, respected, symbolic. Yet symbols don't reroute infrastructure. They don't bury cables underground. They don't slow expansion. So the bustard keeps walking, crossing landscapes cut into pieces, farmland, roads, wires slicing the sky into invisible walls. Every short flight is a gamble. Every landing, relief. Extinction here doesn't sneak. It looms, tall, obvious, strung between poles, humming quietly in the heat. Somewhere in the grass, a heavy bird lifts off, wings wide, and hopes the sky has learned its lesson. A shadow sits in plain sight. Middle of the day, sunlight everywhere. No hiding, no mystery. Just a small owl staring back like it missed the memo. This is the forest owlet. And yes, it's active in daylight. An owl that works the day shift, blinking in full sun, immediately confusing everyone involved. Predators, bird watchers, probably other owls. For decades, people thought it was gone. Not rare, gone. Then someone spotted one, casually perched, like it had just been busy and didn't feel the need to explain. Life here is narrow. Dry forests, old trees, specific cavities for nesting. Not flexible, not adaptable. This owl doesn't relocate, it commits, which is great, until forests turn into fragments instead of homes. Hunting is efficient but unforgiving. Small mammals, lizards, insects. Enough to survive, not enough margin for error. When trees disappear, prey disappears, and the math stops working. No food delivery, no backup territory. Dating is brutally inconvenient. Few partners, large distances. Miss the timing, miss the season. And because they're territorial, finding each other is less rom-com and more wrong address, wrong year. Here's the strange twist. Being rediscovered didn't save it. It just proved it was still losing. Quietly. Protection arrived late. Habitat recovery moves slower than chainsaws ever did. So the forest owlet keeps doing something deeply inconvenient. Existing. Perching in daylight. Calling into forests that answer with echoes instead of rivals. Extinction here doesn't look dramatic. Looks like a species surviving just well enough to be forgotten again. Somewhere on a sunlit branch, an owl watches, wide awake, waiting to see if being seen is enough this time. A canopy explodes. Leaves scatter, branches recoil. Something enormous lifts off, slow and deliberate. Like the forest just exhaled. This is the Philippine eagle, one of the largest eagles on Earth, a crest like it styled itself for a coronation, and eyes that look permanently disappointed in your life choices. This bird was built for dominance. Broad wings, crushing talons, a predator designed to rule dense rainforest from above, ambushing monkeys, flying lemurs, anything careless enough to move wrong. Not frantic, not rushed. Confidence on feathers. But here's the catch. Big predators need big territories. This eagle requires vast, uninterrupted forest, not patches, not leftovers. One pair can need tens of square miles just to function like a couple. And when trees fall, that math collapses fast. Breeding is painfully slow. One chick, sometimes every other year, Parents invest everything, years of care, training, protection, which means losing a single adult isn't a setback. It's a catastrophe with wings. Humans don't help. Deforestation shrinks hunting grounds. Occasional hunting finishes the sentence. Even well-meaning curiosity can be lethal. Disturbance near nests, one bad climb, one panicked flight. And the irony cuts deep. This bird is a national symbol, admired, respected, printed on posters. But admiration doesn't regrow forests, and symbols don't raise chicks. So the eagle waits, perched high, scanning valleys that used to be green, now stitched with clearings. Every hunt costs more energy. Every flight crosses human decisions made far below. Extinction here wouldn't be quiet, it would be heavy. A silence measured not in bird song, but in the absence of something that once ruled the air. Somewhere above a broken canopy, a massive shadow circles, patient, asking whether power still matters when the ground disappears. A shadow slides across stone, wider than it should be, slower than expected. The air bends around it. This is the California condor, a bird with a wingspan that feels like a design error. Bald head, heavy body, looking less like a bird and more like something aviation hasn't fully caught up to yet. Condors don't hunt. They wait, soaring for hours, barely moving a feather, reading thermals like road maps. One carcass can feed several birds. Efficiency perfected over millennia. For a world where death happened naturally. Then humans changed the equation. Lead fragments and carcasses, invisible, lethal. One meal, and a bird that survived ice ages starts shutting down quietly from the inside. No warning, no drama. Breeding doesn't save them. One egg every couple of years. Parents invest absurd amounts of time, months of care, years of dependency. It's the opposite of fast recovery. It's a system built on the assumption that adults live a very long time. And here's the unsettling truth. Every condor you see today is managed, tracked, tested, sometimes captured and treated like a patient instead of a wild animal. Without constant human intervention, they'd already be gone. So the condor flies on, tag on its wing, number in a database. A wild creature living on borrowed precision and careful monitoring. Extinction here wouldn't look like disappearance. It would look like silence in the data. A line that stops moving. Somewhere above a canyon wall, a massive bird circles, not knowing it's being watched, only that the air still holds. A flash of green cuts the wind. Fast, direct, then gone. Like the coastline blinked. This is the orange-bellied parrot, bright green body, yellow chest, and a neon orange belly that feels wildly irresponsible for a bird trying not to vanish. Subtlety was clearly not invited to this design meeting. Its life is a commute, a brutal one. Every year it migrates between breeding grounds and winter feeding sites, crossing open water, storms, and a shrinking menu of coastal plants. Miss one stop, and the journey ends early. Feeding is precise. This parrot doesn't snack. It specializes. Seeds from specific salt marsh plants available for short windows. When wetlands are drained or disturbed, the buffet closes permanently. No substitutions, no refunds. Dating is where things get uncomfortable. When your entire species can fit inside a small auditorium, choice disappears. Pairing becomes paperwork. Breeding programs try to help. But chemistry doesn't always follow spreadsheets. Some birds just don't click. And here's the painful irony. This parrot can fly hundreds of miles without hesitation, yet it can't escape habitat loss measured in meters. A fence here? a development there. Death by 1,000 polite approvals. So the parrot keeps moving. Fast wings, sharp turns, living at migration speed, always en route, never settled. A species permanently in transit. Extinction here wouldn't crash, it would taper. One missed migration, one empty marsh, 1 year when no one comes back, somewhere along the coast. A green streak passes, bright belly flashing, hoping the next landing still exists. A spark jerks sideways, stops midair, vibrating like a mistake in reality, then vanishes behind a thorny branch no one was looking at. This is the Honduran emerald, a hummingbird so small it feels theoretical. Emerald green, razor-thin bill, powered entirely by sugar, impatience, and impossible aerodynamics. Its world is brutally specific. Dry tropical forest, not rainforest, not garden. A narrow strip of habitat with the wrong reputation, cleared fast, protected last. When these forests go, the bird doesn't relocate. It evaporates. Every day is a metabolic emergency. The emerald must feed constantly, flower to flower, burning fuel at a rate that punishes hesitation. Miss a feeding window, and the math turns fatal. No reserves, no safety net. Territory is everything. Males guard feeding zones with the confidence of something that weighs less than a coin. Aggressive, efficient. But when habitat fragments into isolated patches, territories collapse into postage stamps, and rivals stack up fast. Dating doesn't get easier, because hummingbirds don't form big social scenes. Encounters are brief, opportunistic. Blink and you miss it, which works great. Unless there's almost no one left to blink at. And here's the quiet tragedy. This bird isn't losing to predators. It's losing to indifference. Dry forests don't look dramatic on posters. They don't feel urgent until they're gone. So the emerald keeps hovering, burning calories at full throttle, defending flowers that may not bloom next year. A life lived entirely in the present tense. Extinction here wouldn't feel violent. It would feel instantaneous. One cleared hillside, and the air simply stops shimmering. Somewhere in the heat, a green spark hangs in place, wings screaming, holding existence together one flower at a time. A line of birds cuts the sky. Long wings, bare red faces. They fly like they've done this before, many times, and expect the world to remember. This is the northern bald ibis. And yes, it looks like a medieval illustration escaped into real life. Featherless head, curved bill, somehow ancient and awkward at the same time. Like a monk who took a wrong turn into aviation. For centuries, this bird was everywhere. Cliffs, open fields, coastal plains. It walked calmly, probing soil for insects, trusting the ground would provide. That trust did not age well, because this ibis feeds on short grass landscapes, pastures, open terrain, exactly the kind humans love to convert, pave, or intensively farm. When land use changes, the food web snaps. The ibis keeps walking. The insects don't come back. Breeding is social. Colonies, shared cliffs, familiar neighbors, which sounds efficient, until numbers crash. When colonies thin out, coordination breaks. Missed cues, fewer pairs, a social system collapsing under silence. Then there's migration, or rather, the memory of it. These birds once followed routes learned from parents, paths etched into behavior over generations. Break that chain, and young birds don't know where to go. Instinct alone isn't enough. Here's the strange part. Some populations now have to be taught how to migrate. Humans in ultralight aircraft, leading birds like misplaced ideas back into the sky. Wildness, with instructions. So the ibis flies on, face bare to the wind, following routes half remembered, half reinvented. A species trying to recall itself in real time. Extinction here wouldn't erase beauty. It would erase continuity. A line broken, not by failure, but by forgetting. Somewhere above a cliff face, a red-headed bird glides, wings steady, wondering if the sky still knows the way. A long shadow drifts over a river. Slow, careful, wings wide, like it's measuring the valley before committing. This is the white-bellied heron, one of the rarest large birds on Earth. Tall, pale underside, slate blue upper body, built like patience given feathers. This bird doesn't rush. It hunts alone, standing motionless along fast-flowing rivers, waiting for fish to make the mistake. No splashing, no drama, just stillness weaponized. And that's where things go wrong, because this heron depends on clean, undisturbed rivers, long stretches of them. Hydropower dams break the flow. Sand mining reshapes the banks. Human noise fills the silence this bird relies on to function. Breeding is painfully fragile. One nest, high trees near rivers, few chicks. Miss one season, and the population graph visibly flinches. There's no buffer here. No good year waiting to balance a bad one. Then there's space. These herons hate crowds. They spread out naturally, which sounds healthy, until numbers fall so low that individuals stop finding each other at all. Loneliness becomes a biological problem. Solitude turns from strategy into threat. Here's the cruel contradiction. This bird looks powerful, elegant, like something that should be doing fine. But rarity doesn't announce itself. It hides behind beauty. So the heron keeps walking riverbanks that are slowly changing shape. Fishing waters that don't quite behave like they used to. Flying long distances, burning energy just to find silence again. Extinction here wouldn't arrive with collapse. It would arrive with absence. A river still flowing, a bank still there, and no tall shadow crossing it anymore. Somewhere along a mountain river, a solitary bird stands, waiting for a fish or a future to finally break the streak. A flash of blue once cut across dry woodland. Loud, social, impossible to ignore, which, in hindsight, was the problem. This is Spix's macaw. Powder blue feathers, pale face, a parrot that looked like the sky decided to gossip. Charismatic, intelligent, and historically, very trusting. In the wild, life revolved around one idea: riverine trees, specific ones. They nested in old hollows along seasonal rivers, feeding nearby, socializing loudly, memorizing landscapes that barely changed for centuries. Specialization worked until it didn't, because those trees were cut for cattle, for farms, for convenience. And when the nesting sites vanished, the macaws didn't adapt. They waited, generation after generation, returning to places that no longer existed, instinct looping without an exit. Then came people who didn't cut trees. They collected birds, one by one, quietly. A species designed to live in groups, reduced to individuals behind glass. Social intelligence turned into isolation, anxiety. Breeding didn't fail because they couldn't reproduce. It failed because the system collapsed. Too few birds, too far apart, wrong timing. The avian version of missed calls and expired calendars. Here's the strange, uncomfortable twist. For years, this macaw existed only because humans refused to let go. Captive breeding, artificial pairings, chicks raised by hands instead of flocks, wildness, rebuilt from memory. And now, cautiously, the story bends again. Reintroductions. Birds relearning skies their ancestors once knew by heart, flying over landscapes that don't quite remember them back. So the macaw calls out, loud, blue, unapologetic, a voice that once vanished, now testing the air, one wing beat at a time. Extinction here didn't finish the sentence. It paused, waiting to see if memory, or reality, would speak first. Somewhere above a recovering river, blue wings beat, and the past flutters, unsure if it's finally allowed to stay. A burst of blue lifts from the palms. Wing beats loud, unmistakable, the kind of sound that announces presence in a world where presence is risky. This is the blue-throated macaw, electric blue body, golden chest, and that vivid blue throat, like someone underlined its identity in permanent ink. Beautiful, in a way that attracts exactly the wrong kind of attention. Its home isn't rainforest, it's palm savanna, wide, open, sun-blasted land stitched with just the right trees, specific palms, specific nesting cavities. A lifestyle balanced on a few architectural details nature doesn't mass produce. Feeding looks casual, but it's not. These macaws rely on palm fruit that ripens on a tight schedule. Miss the season, miss the calories. And when cattle ranching clears palms to clean up land, the food chain doesn't bend, it snaps. Then there's social life. Macaws are not built for solitude. They bond hard. Long-term pairs, loud conversations. So when numbers crash, the silence hits first. Unpaired birds call into open sky, wasting energy, burning time, advertising loneliness. And here's the bitter irony. This species didn't collapse because it couldn't survive the wild. It collapsed because humans wanted it indoors. Trapped for the pet trade, one beautiful bird at a time. Until whole flocks became rumors. Breeding now is careful, monitored, guarded. Nests protected like bank vaults, because one stolen chick can erase years of progress. Recovery doesn't sprint here, it inches. So the macaw flies low over palms that still stand, calling loudly, because that's who it is. A bird that never learned to be quiet, trying to exist in a century that punishes visibility. Extinction here wouldn't be sudden, it would be social. The last call unanswered, the last pair never formed. Somewhere in the savannah, blue wings flare. A voice rings out, waiting to hear if the sky still answers back. A flash detonates in midair. Red, furious, then stops, hovering like the universe hit pause. This is the Juan Fernandez firecrown, a hummingbird that looks less like a bird and more like a warning label. The males burn crimson, head to chest, while females wear muted greens and blues, like they're trying to survive the same island without being noticed. Two strategies. Same problem. This bird exists in exactly one place. One small island chain, isolated by hundreds of miles of open ocean. No escape routes, no alternate plans. If something breaks here, it breaks everywhere at once. Daily life is constant motion. Hover, feed, chase, defend. Firecrowns are aggressive, especially the males. Guarding flowers with the intensity of someone protecting the last charger at an airport. Energy in, energy out. Miss a few flowers, and the system crashes fast. But the real threat didn't arrive with claws or teeth. It arrived with hooves and teeth and nests that didn't belong. Introduced animals reshaped the island, grazing plants down, wrecking forest structure, opening the door to invasive competitors. The flowers shrank, the margins disappeared. Dating becomes absurd at low numbers, because hummingbird courtship is brief, explosive, blink speed, which works great unless there's almost no one left to blink at. Timing stops being romantic and starts being cruel. And here's the island paradox. Isolation created this bird. Isolation perfected it. And now isolation traps it, watching the rest of the world debate while the clock ticks louder. So the firecrown keeps hovering, scarlet head catching the light, defending blooms like they're irreplaceable, because they are. A living ember refusing to go out. Extinction here wouldn't fade gradually. It would wink, on, then off. Somewhere on a wind-bent island. A red spark hangs in the air, wings screaming, daring geography to blink first. A flicker of red bursts from a shrub, stops, then vanishes like it realized it was being watched. This is the red siskin. Small, fast, painted black and crimson like it fell into a warning sign. A songbird that looks illegal, which inconveniently made it desirable. In the wild, life used to be simple. Open woodlands, scrubby edges, seeds, insects, seasonal abundance, enough to support flocks that moved like living confetti. Social, vocal, built for numbers. Then humans decided red should be owned. For decades, this bird was trapped relentlessly for the cage bird trade. Not hunted, harvested. The brightest males vanished first because color sells. Generation after generation, the gene pool dimmed, until entire populations collapsed without ever making a sound. Survival math turned brutal. Fewer birds meant fewer flocks. Fewer flocks meant weaker defense. And fewer songs in the air meant mates stopped finding each other at all. Silence became contagious. Dating now is awkward in a way biology never planned for. Because siskins rely on social cues, songs bouncing between birds, confidence amplified by crowds. Take the crowd away, and courtship feels like performing stand-up in an empty room. Here's the cruel irony. This bird can adapt to degraded habitats. It can live near people. It can survive disturbance. What it can't survive is being wanted too much. Conservation now feels strange. Breeding programs, carefully managed releases, birds learning how to be wild again, cautiously, like trust needs reintroducing too. So the red siskin sings, softly, from places it used to fill with noise, a song that once blended into thousands, now standing alone. Extinction here wouldn't arrive with catastrophe. It would arrive with quiet success elsewhere. While the wild forgets how red ever sounded, somewhere in dry brush, a flash of crimson lifts, hesitates, and decides for now to stay. The skies didn't empty all at once. They thinned, quietly, politely, one absence at a time. A migration without return, a call that never quite found an answer. Across islands, rivers, grasslands, coastlines, different birds, different stories, same edge. When numbers fall this low, survival stops being about strength and starts being about timing. Some of these birds are still flying, still nesting, still behaving like the world hasn't already made its decision. Others exist as plans, data points, memories carefully kept alive by human hands. Wild, but not untouched. And that's the uncomfortable pattern, isn't it? Extinction doesn't announce itself. It waits for distraction, for distance, for us to assume someone else is watching. So when you picture the last bird of a species, don't imagine drama. Imagine routine, a normal day, interrupted by nothing at all. Because the real question isn't how many are left. It's how many disappear before we even notice the sky changed. Somewhere, right now, A bird takes off, unaware it might be counted, or remembered, or never seen again.